Hello, good evening everybody, welcome to the video. My name is Michelle Wills and I'm making a series of videos I wasn't expecting to make, to be quite honest, concerning, in my opinion, probably the worst housing association in the UK, Sanctuary Housing. Now Sanctuary Housing reckon they are the largest housing association in England and Scotland. I don't know about Wales or Northern Ireland, but that's what they claim on their website. And various sources, anywhere between 80 to 120,000 properties. So you're talking at least 500,000 people live in sanctuary properties. So my story starts in May of 2008, so over 17 and a half years ago, nearly. And I was living elsewhere, obviously, and I had viewed the property probably in April. I'm not sure about the actual time scale. And I had to take the property. I was under the council housing, and if I didn't take this property, then I would have been effectively homeless. Now, the property I was to rent was a one-bedroom flat in a block called Charlton House, which is in Dawlish. And the area basically is, there are two large, it used to be a hotel, I believe, a Charlton Hotel in Dawlish, for those of you older who may remember. It's off Eastcliff Road, but now it's two blocks of flats. I believe 1996 they were built. And my block has flats number 1 to 16. Some are one bedroom like mine, some are two bedroom. I believe there is one or two 3-bedroom flats here as well. And the lower block has blocks is 17 to 30. So I arranged to, I believe it was Thursday the 8th of May 2008, I had an appointment to meet a representative from Sanctuary to sign the tenancy agreement and get the keys to the flat. So that's what I did. And on looking, after signing the tenancy agreement, well, I had a dog, a Labrador, about 2 years old, golden Labrador, should I say. And the sanctuary representative, Mr. Kai Heap, said to me that if I sign my tenancy agreement, sanctuary policy is no dogs or any animals of any description, cats, dogs, allowed in blocks of flats. So in signing the tenancy agreement, or being homeless, or getting rid of my dog. So I had to get rid of a dog. I had for about 18 months. It was 2 years old, as I say. That broke my heart. I can remember the gentleman, Kai Heap, after I signed the tenancy agreement, giving me a key, an electric key for the electric meter, which is outside the flat. And after he'd gone, I discovered there was no electricity. So what I did was I went down to the nearest pay point, which is say 3 to 500 yards away, the local co-op, and I put £10 credit onto the key. I came back, put the key in the meter, nothing. I therefore rang Sanctuary Housing on the same day as signing the tenancy agreement, and they said it wasn't their problem, contact the electric company, and they told me it was Scottish Southern, or something like that, Southern Electric. I contacted them, Southern Electric, and they told me it's nothing to do with them, it's to do with a housing association. So I had no choice but to go down to the co-op, and I ended up putting £30 on the key meter in total. So when I returned and put the key meter in for a second time, registered £30, I actually got, I believe it was about £2.30 electric. So obviously there was a charge, electric charge, on the meter of over £27, which I had to pay to get £2.30 odd electric, which was obviously a bad start. Also, the flat was in such a disgusting, filthy state. For example, the walls in the lounge, you could write your name in them. They were so thick with grime and dirt and filth. I alerted the council, Teambridge Council, the homeless department, and one of their operatives came round and they agreed with me. And they told me to go back to my old property in Dawlish until it was sorted out. The old property being not as far away from here as the pay point, so say 200 yards away. So that's exactly what I did. Then Sanctuary offered me £200 in B&Q vouchers, believe it or not. Yes, B&Q vouchers. Saying that, hoping towards me cleaning the place up. It was uninhabited, it was filthy. So I had to, which I didn't mind. I accepted the 200 vouchers, bought materials I needed, and I painted the flat. It's only a small flat, and I was grateful for that, so you think it's problem solved. Now, when I came back, I believe it was 5 or 6 days later, so I signed it on around, I believe the 8th was the Thursday, and it was about the following Tuesday or the Wednesday that I returned, having received the vouchers, and formally moved in. So, doing me painting, doing the place up and everything, and I noticed within days of moving in, so I'm going to say, all time scales are estimates because it was over 17 years ago, and I remember well, within a week of moving in, I noticed that there were 9 dogs here in 9 separate flats. So just imagine that. You have a dog. You're not allowed to have a dog because it's a breach of tenancy agreement, because there are no dogs allowed in blocks of flats. That's what Sanctuary told me. And yet 9 different flats had dogs. How do you feel about that? And it's, I was absolutely devastated. I had to give up my dog 2 years. 2 years old, but I had it for about 1.5 years, the dog. And I was devastated, but this is the beginning of the disasters that is Sanctuary Housing, the cowboys that are Sanctuary Housing. So, the first, like I say, 2 months or 3 months, I had to get a momentous effort to get back the £27 and change they owed me for the electric. I took photos of the meter and all the rest of it, pressed different buttons, A, B, C, D and E, all the rest of it. And eventually I did meet the same man, Kai Heap, who came here, and he gave me in cash the £27 and change that I paid on the meter. It took about 3 months. That's how pathetic they were. They didn't even want to, pay. Well, they wanted me to pay for somebody else's electricity. Absolute. I later discovered the actual money had accrued because there was a standing charge in a meter, which apparently was illegal at the time because it was done away in. But that's what I was charged anyway. That's what I had to do. So then I appealed against the dogs. I made an appeal, and so I moved in May, the second week of May of 2008, and in the August, I can remember the dates. I'm quite good at certain things on dates, good memory, and it was August the 8th. I received a response from a senior manager at Sanctuary, a lady by the name of Janet Swales, and her response was, "No, I can't keep a dog. I can't keep a dog." And indeed, the letter did say that if I did get a dog, I would be in breach of my tenancy agreement and liable for being subject to eviction proceedings. So, with dogs being in mind, this is a copy of an email I received. It's titled Communal Repairs at Charlton House and Dogs. So at this moment, we're just interested in the dogs. And this, as you can see, the date here, hopefully, Friday, the 17th of May, 2024. So this has been the policy throughout of Sanctuary Housing on dogs in blocks of flats. So what I'm going to do is, you see here there's a PDF attachment here. Two attachments for Google. There's a pet permission. There you go. It says there, pet permission guidance. Flats with no external access. So obviously every single flat at Charlton House, all 30 of them, they're all internal exits out of a flat into main communal areas, hallways, down to steps. There's only one door, one communal door leading just to a passageway and obviously stairs going up to the various floors. That's all there are. So let's have a look and see what their policy is. So we'll press that, and this is Sanctuary's policy. This was still applies today. Pet permission guidance, flats with no external access. If you live in a property without its own direct external access, you will not be permitted to keep a cat unless it is a house cat, dog, or large animal. You do not need permission to keep assistance dogs or therapy cats, however. We need to be informed before they are obtained and provided with evidence they are needed. If you are a new resident who already owns a cat and are moving into a ground floor accommodation, you may be allowed to keep your pet at the property for the duration of its life. However, another cat would not be permitted. You may ask for permission to keep 4 or less small caged animals that would live in the home, e.g. hamsters, gerbils, small birds, fish, including small reptiles. So just bear with me as I scroll down that page to other nonsense it says. If you choose to keep any of the above at your home, you must contact us, phone number, to seek permission. You will be held completely responsible for nuisance caused by pets. You will keep the pets in a reasonable manner and provide proper care for it. Breeding is not permitted. If there are any complaints about the pets, or permission may be withdrawn and you must find alternative accommodation for your pets. Visitors to your home with pets must make sure that animals are kept under control, not allowed to be a nuisance or danger to others, to damage property or foul in public places or communal areas. Should their pets foul in public place or communal area, you or the owner must clear up the pets after the pet immediately. Any reptiles must be in secured tanks or equivalent. Any heated tanks which could be a fire risk are your responsibility to maintain and ensure the equipment is safe. You will be responsible for the fumigation of a property if any health and safety incident occurs that is related to you. So there we are. So that is the policy, the sanctuary housing policy for keeping pets. Pets, I'll just read that again. If you live in a property without its own direct external access, which is a block of flats, I'm sure they don't have a external access on the 4th floor, you will not be permitted to keep a cat unless it is a cat, dog, or a large animal. So therefore, no dogs allowed. So today is Tuesday, the 30th of September 2025, and I can tell you there are, to my knowledge, out of the 30 flats, 14, so nearly half of the flats, have dogs. Yeah, have dogs. So they make the rules up as they go along, do sanctuary housing, as regards the keeping of pets. So I will be, in the next, probably before the end of the year, I will be taking legal action against Sanctuary, because they are breaking not only this own guidance, pet permission guidance, flats with no external access, but also breaching the terms of my tenancy agreement. So here is the original copy of my tenancy agreement, sanctuary housing assured tenancy agreement. I know it's going to be difficult to see because it dates back to the 8th of May 2008. Assured tenancy agreement, so there's me, the tenant, Michelle Wills, flat 5 Charlton House, Dawlish, and the tenancy began on, if you look, it actually began on Monday the 12th of May. That's when the tenancy began. On the back page of the tenancy agreement, it's rather tatty. You can see I/we have read, understood and accepted the association's conditions of tenancy and have been given a copy of this agreement. Signed on behalf, that's Kai Heap, that's, I know it's very faded, the 8th of May 08, and there's my signature, the 8th of May 08. So first, the 8th of May 2008 is when the tenancy agreement was formally signed. So moving to the tenancy agreement itself, on page 3 of the agreement, the tenant's obligations, the tenant's rights. So we'll go down, as you can see, 1, misleading information, rent, use of premises, domestic violence, and all the usual standard things. So I'm going to turn over the page and go on to the next page, as I'm struggling to do. There we go. So on this next page, we come to the tenant's responsibilities, obligations. Number 11, pets. Not to keep any dog or other animal without the written consent of the association. Not to be unreasonably withheld and... Sorry, I'll read that again, it doesn't make sense. Not to keep any dog or other animal without written consent of the association. Not to be unreasonably withheld and to keep under proper control any animal for which consent is given. Now I'll stop there because I don't need to go any further, because I've just proved from the email from 2014 that the housing officer sent me that it's no one could possibly have written consent at Charlton House. There are no, as far as I'm aware, guide dogs, assistance dogs, etc. And the only dogs are just family pets here. So I assume, I haven't seen anyone else's tenancy agreement, but obviously common sense will dictate that if in my tenancy agreement, as it says, I'm not allowed to keep a dog, and yet other flats are, then that is discrimination, blatantly discrimination. So therefore, all these people, I believe it's 19, I think, or I had dogs in total, 19 different flats out of the 30, have dogs, then they are breaking the terms of the tenancy agreement. I had to give up my dog, my beloved dog. And some of you may laugh at what I'm going to say now, but those of you who are a pet owner, and when that dog sadly passes away, or you have to put it down, it is literally like losing a member of your family. It hurts. And to think that it needn't have happened because I was naive, I followed the laws, I still do today. Not allow dogs, as that email in a year ago, or a year and a half ago says. No pets allowed, no dogs allowed. No. And as for, just as a side point, there's somebody here, lovely guy, here, he actually has a pet, I mean it's a python. It's a massive, great big thing, about 20 foot long python, just, which obviously I haven't, said anything about. I've got nothing against people for having pets. I'd love to have a dog, but I'm not allowed to. But 19 other flats out of 30 are, apparently. So we'll be pursuing that through the courts in due course. The next issue I had at Sanctuary was with the rubbish bins. Now, obviously, with its own grounds, substantial grounds, 30 flats, car parking space probably for about 30 cars, a grassy area, you have to have a bin store. And quite often, the bin store would fill up within a few days. You've got 30 flats, you're probably talking, mine's a one bedroom flat, you've got 2 bedroom flats. For example, my old next door neighbours, there were 6 of them, 4 kids and 2 adults. So you got a whole mixture. Couples, I think there are very few people of flats, 1 bedroom or whatever, but just have one single person. Indeed, the tenancy agreement does allow for me to take in a lodger if I wish, which I would never do. But it does allow me to. I do have that facility if I wished to do that at some point. But this health and safety, living in Dawlish, living by the sea, I guess as the crow flies, the sea's about 100 yards away, I guess. But literally, cross a road, obviously you can't because there's obviously obstacles in the way. But like I said, as the crow flies, so you sort of fly over the road, fly over a grassy area, fly over the main railway line, then you're at the sea. That's it. Less than 100 yards, I reckon, is the distance. And of course, you get prone to spores coming from the sea algae. Now, I'm sure many of you who've been to a beach would know that the rocks on a beach, they get slimy when wet and very slippery. That's the algae. And here we get the spores coming in the air, and the communal pathways, like from the bin store to my block of flats, then to the lower block, I call it, near the car park as well. You got 30 flats, you got probably 50 people maybe in total living at Charlton House, need to empty their rubbish on a regular basis. And what was happening was the bins were getting filled too quickly. And so one day I decided, like for example, if I had chicken, for example, I would put stuff in a carrier bag, orange peel, stuff that can rot and attract flies and vermin and goods and stuff, what else, if not disposed of. I would, innocently, I put stuff in a carrier bag when I couldn't get into the bin store. Indeed, one day I opened the bin store and I got attacked by about 20 black bags fell on top of me. people just chuck them in there. So I used to take my stuff down to a rubbish bin down the town centre. And then one day I get a stinking letter from the council warning me that this was fly tipping. And that next time I do it, I obviously mistakenly had some form of ID in there so they could identify me. I have a stinking letter from Team Research Council and telling me if I do it again, to use the bins provided. I contacted Sanctuary, they did nothing. So what I did, I contacted Team Research Council and I spoke to a manager for the refuge collection. I believe it was East Tingbridge. I believe his name was Terry, I believe. And I spoke to Terry, and he said, yes, we've had problems a long time. And it took the council were in regular contact with Sanctuary, and Sanctuary just ignored the council's head of refuge collections. And so it took the council to issue a 14-day notice for them to make the bin store bigger, because simply the bin store was so small. They had large industrial bins, but with recycling bins as well, there just weren't enough. The bin men were emptying them every 2 weeks, and they're being filled within days. They would empty them, say, on a Monday. By Thursday they were full, and they wouldn't be coming to for another 10 days. So, and they put a notice, a 14-day notice for Sanctuary to repair them, and they had to knock down and rebuild a much larger bin store which could fit much larger bins. So that's the sort of organisation Sanctuary are. They make the rules up as they go along. They don't adhere to their own tenancy agreements. They disregard the council. And they're generally a very unsavoury organisation, should I say. So this is, I guess, part 1 of the series I'm going to make on Sanctuary housing. I'm not sure how many episodes there'll be, probably 5 or 6. I'm going to keep them to around half an hour long so you don't get bored and fall asleep. But I'll be very interested if anyone has their own experiences of Sanctuary housing, and to feel free to make a comment in the comment section down below of this video. And I apologise for the poor quality. Those of you who followed me previously, I've made videos on all sorts of topics, from banks, gambling addiction, various topics, and for those who followed me will know about the battles I've had, which I want to explore in these short half-hour or so long videos. So, as I say again, part 2, I will talk about the health and safety, and about action I took to prevent someone from potentially sustaining considerable injuries or worse. So thank you again for watching the video, and please feel free to comment in the comment section down below.